If Donald Trump was a real man, he'd put out his medical records. And so I think he shouldn't be afraid to show the country his health and mental and physical fitness before this election. It's something we've been talking about for the last few days. And if he's watching, I hope he understands the importance of telling the American people whether you're up to the job.
Donald Trump is once again publicly triggered and publicly lashing out at both the Fox propaganda network and a particular advisor of Vice President Kamala Harris, who recently appeared on the network. And it's hilarious, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have a couple of clips to look at in this video. But before I get to Trump and his triggered response to all of this, I want to play a recent clip, a very fresh clip of Ian Sams, who used to work for President Biden in the Biden-Harris White House, and then he left to go work for the Harris campaign. He's a very effective surrogate for Democrats. He goes on Fox quite a bit. I want you to see his most recent, or a clip of his most recent appearance on Fox, in which he brutally roasts Donald Trump and seems to be trying to get under his skin. And based on the responses he's been getting from Trump, it's working.
Can I make one point about men? Because I think you raised something. I think that if you're a man, you're not afraid to put out your medical records. If Donald Trump was a real man, he'd put out his medical records. And so I think he shouldn't be afraid to show the country his health and mental and physical fitness before this election. It's something we've been talking about for the last few days. And if he's watching, I hope he understands the importance of telling the American people whether you're up to the job by showing your health information and showing whether you can be fit.
Well, maybe Harris will ask him about it. We haven't heard that being a major issue from voters.
Well, it is an issue for voters in the sense that Donald Trump consistently polls well behind Vice President Harris with respect to physical and mental fitness. They're not equal. Poll after poll after poll shows a majority of Americans are not confident in Trump's fitness to be president, mentally, physically, in terms of competence. And the vice president generally leads on this by a staggering number. We'll get to that. But again, what Ian Sams is doing here, he knows that he is getting a reaction from Trump, and we'll get to why. And he's deliberately provoking Trump. He's trolling Trump. I mean, with the truth, right? Donald Trump is deliberately refusing to produce his medical records, much as he deliberately refused to reduce his tax returns, which he defied decades of tradition in so doing, as he is doing now with respect to his medical health. So he's now going out of his way to provoke and attack Donald Trump's ego, his sense of bravado, his sense of machismo and masculinity. It's great stuff. And the reason that Ian Sams is doing this is because Donald Trump recently lost his mind on Truth Social in another rant about Fox and Ian Sams in particular. How much time does Ian Sams, senior advisor to Lion Kamala Harris, spend on Fox News? He's now in Cavuto, Fox's lowest rated show by far, and spent much of the weekend hitting Trump totally unopposed before two real beauties, Eric Shawn and Arthur Neville, not exactly the next Walter Cronkite of the broadcasting world. Sams is just below an average guy with memorized fake news sound bites, almost all of which are wrong, but coupled with all of the other Harris radical left Democrat mouthpieces that Fox puts on, Richard Fowler, Patrick Murphy, Something Wolf, Jessica Tarloff, again, refusing to get Jessica Tarloff's name right, our liberal Fox News queen. It has a very negative effect on the election. Think of it. I spend an hour with the wonderful Maria Bartiromo, do a beautiful job, and then I'm followed up all day long by a one-sided negative Democrats, including Ian Sams, who virtually owns the network. It's not worthwhile doing interviews on Fox because it's all just averages out into nothing. Fox News has totally lost its way. He's very upset. And again, note that last part at the end. It's not worthwhile to go on Fox to give an interview. He already declined publicly a Fox-hosted Martha McCallum, who was the blonde that the news anchor that Ian Sams was talking to, and Brett Baer, the guy who is going to be interviewing Vice President Harris. He's already declined to allow them to host or to moderate a Fox-hosted rematch between himself and Vice President Harris. And now he's suggesting that he might not do interviews on the network because he thinks that Ian Sams going on is actually impacting the election. And I hope it is. I hope it is. But you see how fragile Donald Trump is? Doesn't matter, again, that the vast majority of the Fox personalities are overtly politically aligned with Trump. It doesn't matter that they had to pay nearly $1 billion in what effectively amounts as a loyalty tax. They're so loyal to Trump. They knowingly signal boosted his 2020 election lies to the point that they defamed Dominion voting systems and had to pay a $787 million settlement, the biggest in recorded history. I mean, none of that matters to Trump. The loyalty is so one-sided and it must be absolute. I will say before we play the next clip, he also posted separately about Neil Cavuto. Neil Cavuto has one of the worst shows on television and the worst rated on Fox News. The people on fake news CNN are better. Now, with that in mind, I do want to play you. I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing. It's about 8 minutes long, but the Ian Sams Neil Cavuto interview to which Trump was referring. And again, I want you to think about this. We've played Cavuto before. Yep, he's willing to criticize MAGA Republicans and Trump and call out MAGA Republicans, but don't get it confused. This man is not a partisan Democrat. And I think he asked a pretty adversarial, tough interview of Ian Sams.
I got it. Brian Yennis, thank you very much. With us now is Ian Sams, the Kamala Harris campaign senior advisor. Ian, very good having you back with us. I'm just wondering if these polls hadn't tightened, would Kamala Harris be doing an interview with Fox right now?
Well, yeah, Neil, we enjoy coming on your air, and the vice president's looking forward to her interview with Brett tomorrow night. It's actually kind of a stark reminder that we're not really seeing Donald Trump do very many interviews. It's been about a month now since he did a mainstream media interview. And we got to wonder why. You know, we called this weekend for him to release his medical records. The vice president released her medical report from her doctor, Donald Trump's team. I heard him on your air last hour insisting that everything is okay and that there's nothing to see here. And your anchor rightly asked, well, if that's true, why not just put him out? And so I think that you're going to get to hear from the vice president tomorrow night about her vision for the country and what she's looking forward to presenting to Fox News viewers, including, for example, her proposal to make sure that seniors in-home care is covered under Medicare, a very important proposal to help people bring down the costs for seniors as well as their kids who might be taking care of an aging parent. And so these are the kind of ideas that she's talking about and looking forward to talking and answering, tough questions on Fox News about.
What took so long?
Hey, better late than never, right? I mean, we got 3 weeks to this election, and she's looking forward to coming on and talking with Brett. We've been on this network over and over again. We think that your viewers deserve to hear from the vice president and our campaign about the vision that she has to help bring down costs. Just this morning, for example, in the Wall Street Journal, which I know is a sister publication for your company, we came out with a new survey of economists who are saying 2/3 of those economists are saying that inflation would be higher under President Trump if he comes back into office. I hear the woman in Pennsylvania who was just talking about prices being too high. I couldn't agree more. Prices do need to keep coming down for the American people. And when you listen to economists who are talking to the Wall Street Journal, they're saying 68% of them say that inflation would be higher and prices would be higher if Donald Trump enacts his plans in office again. And so I think that we're going to keep talking about this economic choice in the race.
I should point out the Wall Street Journal, excellent publication. A lot of those same economists were saying some of his plans would ignite inflation. That did not turn out to be the case. But that's neither here nor there. I do want to talk to you a little bit back and forth on these presumed tensions that the campaign has with the Biden folks, with President Biden in particular. There's been all these reports that it came to fruition with this argument whether Ron DeSantis was being helpful or hurtful. The president says he has great relations and has been working fine with the governor. Kamala Harris miffed that she never got to speak to Governor DeSantis during this, and there was a lot of tension. Is there tension between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you think about tensions between a president and the vice president, you've got to think about January 6th when President Trump let his supporters chant, "Hang Mike Pence." And Mike Pence doesn't even support President Trump's campaign.
I understand that,
cycle.
Ian, but to answer my question, is there tension now between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
So there you go again. And the interview actually continues to get more adversarial. He lets Ian Sams answer the question. He lets Ian Sams get out the talking points. But when he asks a very pointed question, he pretty quickly cuts it off and demands an answer. You can see Cavuto's agitation there. So I don't know about these reports. I've seen the reports that there's potential tension between President Biden and Vice President Harris's staffs. I hope it's not true. It's entirely possible that it is. And certainly Ian Sams doesn't seem eager to explicitly contradict this thing. But again, my point is, Cavuto asks tough questions. Cavuto is not a partisan Democrat who lobs softballs, okay? Which is, again, by the way, perfectly fair, given that Fox News does it with Trump all the time. I digress. My point is the substance of Trump's critiques against Cavuto are just categorically, factually wrong. He's grilling Ian Sams and grills him for the remainder of the interview, but it's not enough, because what Trump doesn't want you, or rather what you do recognize if you watch the clip, Trump will just never acknowledge himself, is that Ian Sams is pretty good for the most part at answering these questions. He's a very effective media surrogate. He's very quick on his feet. He has the talking points down. He can debate the issues. And the fact that Fox is signal boosting him at all has Trump visibly concerned, because he knows his surrogates, Trump's surrogates, can't do nearly as well, mostly because the facts are just simply not on their side. So I love this. I love to see Donald Trump get so upset with Fox. This is just, it's catnip to me. It's so good. Last thing I'll say, given Ian Sams bringing all the way back to the beginning of that interview with Cavuto, but also to the first clip that we played, in which, you know, he insulted Trump's masculinity to Martha McCallum and talked about his medical records, Trump's medical records. I will say, these abrupt cancellations, these abrupt outbursts by Trump, his refusal to produce his medical records, it is reigniting questions. At long last, thank God, questions which should have been asked from the very beginning, because the media should have been applying the same standard to Trump as they did President Biden. But now the attention on Trump's staggering cognitive decline and his physical and mental fitness, this is now becoming more and more of a campaign issue because of Trump's floundering. So this is great stuff. I'm happy to see it. Happy to see Trump get so triggered by the likes of Ian Sams and Neil Cavuto. And we need to see more of it. And I expect we will. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.